Hi everyone, welcome back to Tropical Fruit Month. This week we're going to be looking at the star fruit, also known as Carambola. This tree right behind me was actually planted in 2009, so it's had quite some time to get established here. So they originally came from around Asia for the most part. There are different varieties of it as well. Some of them are grown commercially, some of them pretty much have to grow yourself if you want to try them. In general, they're beautiful trees. This one is just now starting to flower. They usually flower in summertime. They bear fruit, very consistently, pretty much all throughout summer, through fall, and even through a little bit of the winter time as well. And you get buckets and buckets of fruit. We got, like, last year, probably thousands of fruit off of this tree. So extremely productive. There's pretty much no way you can eat all of it. But yeah, it's a really good tree for pollinators as well. Even just standing here, I'm just watching all the bees and flies and butterflies just kind of buzzing around it, pollinating the flowers. So this is definitely good to have in your yard. It just assists with pollination of everything you have nearby. So the two main types of star fruit are generally going to be the green and the yellowish orange ones for the most part. The green ones are typically more sour. The ones that have more of a yellowish orange color are going to be much sweeter. You can eat ones that are yellowish and orange, while they're still green, and they are going to be somewhat sour still, but a little bit different than ones that are just only green. If you can guess by the name, star fruit generally look like a star if you cut them in half. They have a cross section that usually has 5 or 6 ridges. There are small seeds inside of it as well. I usually just spit the seeds out. Some people eat them. It doesn't really make much of a big deal. So generally the fruit that's going to be yellow and orange is going to be much, much sweeter. I usually wait until there's a little strip of orange in it. That's pretty much as sweet as it's going to get before it starts to rot. That's usually when I like them. Some people like them more yellow, some people like them right off the tree when they're green still. They don't really ripen off the tree that well. It's better to leave them on the tree until they're fully ripened before you pick them. They have low levels of ethylene, which is it's basically a gas hormone that fruit has, and it basically just ripens the fruit. And since they don't really have that off of the tree, they don't really ripen up by themselves. They may kind of ripen a little bit, but it's not going to be nearly as tasty as what it would be if it were left on the tree until it's fully ripened. This tree is extremely productive. You get thousands and thousands of fruit from a full-grown tree like this. There's no possible way you can eat all of them. Last year we had tons of them just laying on the ground that we couldn't get to in time. We left them for a few days, and it turns out the bees were actually eating the fruit themselves, the half-fermented fruit. Bees will actually go after the half-rotten fruit because they get drunk off it, essentially. A lot of the sugar turns to alcohol, and yeah, they basically get drunk and carry it back to the hive, and yeah, have fun. Growing star fruit in Florida should be pretty easy as long as you choose the right location for it. They can grow in pretty much any soil type for the most part. It just needs to be pretty well draining. They're not going to do well if it's in like a low spot in the yard where a lot of water just accumulates. They want somewhere where it just drains pretty freely and you don't really have puddles nearby. Consistent watering is really good for these trees as well. They don't like to be too wet and they don't like to be too dry, so having it on an irrigation timer that goes out about twice a week is usually perfect for them. If they do get too much water or not enough water at the wrong time of year, you may lose all your fruit. The tree's natural response to too much water is just going to be to drop its fruit and just focus on surviving. So if you see any of the fruit starting to rot out, or just the trees dropping the fruit when it's still green, just be aware it's probably from watering, and kind of just adjust the variables and see if you can fix it. Carambola are not very salt tolerant, so they're not going to do well if you have well water that's got a lot of salt in it, or if you're pretty close to the ocean. So just kind of be aware of that. We can check your water for salinity here for free. Just bring in a little sample. It takes like 2 seconds if you want to make sure before you buy one of those trees. They are extremely quick growers as well. This one has been in the ground for about a little over 10 years now. It actually snapped completely in half about 4 years ago. During one of the hurricanes, we had high wind. This thing completely snapped in half about right here. So basically, the tree has completely recovered in 4 years, and again, we've had tons and tons of fruit off of this. So that just goes to show how resilient these trees are and how quick they grow, essentially. Yep. Alright, so there are tons of different types of star fruit out there. Again, they're kind of classified more as like a green sour or as a yellow-orange sweet. So yeah, we have a few different types right now that we can go ahead and talk about. This one here is the Sri Kembangan. It is a pretty tasty star fruit. It's definitely one of the better tasting ones. It's often classified as a dessert quality star fruit. It does have a nice yellow, kind of orange color to it when it's ripe. It's very sweet. There's no fiber in it too. Some star fruit have fiber in them, usually the green ones, but this one has absolutely none. Yeah, it's just a really good fruit. It's got a slight crunch to it. Yeah, highly recommend. All right, and next up here we have Kari. Kari is actually one of my favorite varieties of star fruit. We don't exactly know what that one is there, the big one that I was standing under earlier, but I'm pretty confident that it is a Kari. These are, I mean, they're pretty quick growers for the most part. You can actually grow these in containers, believe it or not. They might get 20, 30 feet full grown, but you can actually grow these in containers pretty easily, for a while at least. This one's pretty sweet as well, and it also has a slight crunch to it. These fruit tend to be a little bit bigger than the other ones out there, a little bit longer at least. But in general, it's a beautiful tree with beautiful pink blossoms and just very, very productive. And the last one that we have over here is the Arkin. The Arkin is probably one of the most common star fruit out there. It's one that you usually get in the grocery stores. I will say the ones in the grocery store are usually not that good. They're usually picked too early before they're fully ripened, and again, they don't have ethylene, so they don't really ripen all the way when they're shipped. So if you have an Arkin, I promise you it'll taste much better than the ones that you usually get at just regular grocery stores. If you find a farmer's market, you might be able to find these fully ripened as well, and yeah, definitely a pretty tasty one. That's pretty much it for star fruit. So like I was saying, in general, fairly easy here in Florida. If you have any questions or anything, absolutely leave them down in the comments below, or give us a call and talk to one of us sales associates. Yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune in next week where I'm going to be talking about some notable mentions for tropical fruit. Thanks.